What does a Lincoln Town Car have in common with a police cruiser that racked up 500,000 miles, a supercharged Mustang named the Terminator, and the Koenigsegg hypercar that briefly held the title of the world's fastest production car? The common denominator is that every single one of them ran a version of the same engine, Ford's 4.6-liter modular V8, which is the Swiss Army knife of V8s. But it begs the question, how did Ford's first ever full-on production overhead cam V8 end up being thrown into just about everything and setting records? Well, the answer starts in the early 80s when Ford had a serious problem. Their old 5-liter pushrod V8s were just not able to make good enough power and meet the emissions requirements as time was moving on. That's when the vice president of design, Donald Peterson, challenged Jim Clark to give him something new that would replace all the old Ford small blocks, your typical cam and block design. And while he was at it, he was also tasked with replacing the 385 series of big block Ford engines as well, all within this new architecture. It was a high bar, but Clark rose to the challenge, and the engine he and his team designed over the next few years, while it certainly had growing pains early on, became the standard for most of Ford's cars and trucks for nearly 2 decades. It even spawned a V10 version and some stroked up variants with displacements all the way up to 6.8 liters. Now, we call it the modular V8 not because the parts are all interchangeable, but because one of the big first advantages of this new engine came from a standardization of manufacturing methods between the Windsor and Romeo factories. Ford made the process at both factories much more modular, which made building the engines less expensive and it made them easier to produce. A few dollars savings per engine can really add up when you put that engine in millions of cars, trucks, and vans. The 4.6-liter mod motor had a 90.2mm bore and a 90mm stroke, an almost perfectly square design. And compared to its pushrod predecessor, it had overhead cams that were designed to tighter tolerances. It had narrower piston rings, which reduced friction inside the engine and, of course, helped improve emissions. The overhead cam design allowed for higher peak RPMs too. It had better fuel efficiency, and some versions of the mod motor had ridiculously strong blocks that could handle near 1,000 horsepower without blowing up. Not all of them though, but some of the blocks could handle this, and I'll touch on that again later. One of Clark's goals was to build a new engine that needed no major maintenance services for at least 100,000 miles. And except for one early exception with the spark plugs and one issue with the intake manifolds, he ended up pulling this off. After all this development time, in 1991, the new 4.6-liter mod motor started showing up in Lincoln Town Cars. The early versions of the engine were relatively simple 2-valve per cylinder designs, and while they lacked the low-end torque of the earlier pushrods, they were comparable in power with having less displacement and better fuel efficiency. Oh, and the 4.6-liter Ford mod motor family in general, especially the 2-valve and 4-valve per cylinder motors, just happened to be some of the best sounding V8s that were ever made, especially in terms of American V8s. The sound they make is just awesome. But those new town cars did get a positive reaction from buyers and drivers. With 210 horsepower, it was quite a bit quicker than the 5-liter small block town cars from the year prior, which only had 160 horsepower. The only adjustment thing people had to get over was the fact that the 4.6 pushed peak power way higher up in the rev range, and as a result, there was less torque down low. The 2-valve per cylinder version of the 4.6 mod motor continued to roll out into the Crown Victorias and the Mercury Grand Marquis in 1992. But Ford needed something to appeal to people like you and me that had a little more oomph to it, and they didn't dare put the mod motor in the Mustang yet. In fact, the mod motor wouldn't make it into the Mustang until 1996, so we had a few years to go. In that time, Ford found a solution to make an even more potent version of the mod motor, and that was to increase the number of valves per cylinder from 2 to 4. In doing so, what they did is they switched to a dual overhead cam setup. They rolled out the new 4-valve mod motor first in the 1993 Lincoln Mark 8, which I've already made a video on. This upgraded engine put out a much improved 280 horsepower and 285 foot-pounds of torque, which was better at peak than that year's Fox Body Cobra, which was rated for 205 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque. With such an expansive performance gap, they figured out that, hey, the 4.6 mod motor definitely has a potential application in the Mustang, but it would take a couple years for them to nail things down and introduce that new chassis in which they brought in the mod motor with. With this, Ford thought that they might be able to find a place for the mod motor in the Mustang, but it would still again take them a couple years to nail things down. In the meantime, the 2-valve 4.6 motors were expanded into the Thunderbirds and Cougars in 1994. The Lincoln Continentals got a taste of the 4-valve motor in 1995, and this new motor was just proving to be reliable and inexpensive. Mod motor applications just kept on growing. Ford's economies of scale got better, and the engine was starting to prove itself out in the real world. The 4.6 was incredibly durable, with some police cruisers making it to 500,000 miles on that motor without needing a real rebuild. And then in 1996, we reached probably the most pivotal year of the mod motor. That was the year that Ford finally decided to put it into the Mustang. In so, there were two options you could get. The first was the 2-valve motor, which was the 9:1 compression ratio engine in the 96 SN95 Mustang GT, which made 215 horsepower and 285 foot-pounds of torque. The other option was in the 1996 SVT Cobra, which was the 4-valve per cylinder variant of the mod motor, which was quite a bit faster, making 305 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque. It had a 9.851 compression ratio with an aluminum block that was cast in Italy. These early aluminum blocks are known as Texid blocks, after the Fiat subsidiary that ended up casting them, and they were the most durable production aluminum blocks available at the time. The Windsor plant had a slightly different alloy and process that lagged behind the Italian manufacturers until about 2001, when the Windsor plant finally improved their castings to a lighter yet stronger design. Now, the 90 horsepower difference between those early Mustang GTs with the mod motor and the SVT Cobra sounds like a lot, but that doesn't even tell the full story. See, I have a 2004 Mustang Mach 1 with the 4-valve 4.6 in it, and I've driven a 2004 Mustang GT, which makes about 265 horsepower stock compared to the 215 of the old 2-valve motors. And I can tell you, even with that just 40 or so horsepower difference on paper, the 4-valve engine feels so much more lively than the 2-valve motor. They're kind of the same at the low RPMs, but once you get above 4,000 RPM or so, the 4-valve motors really just transform into their own. It's so much different. There's so much more oomph up top than there is with the 2-valve. It feels like you're driving a completely different car. Another big change that the mod motor saw in 1996 was the switch over to the new version of Ford's electronic engine control, EECV for short. The new system offered a little better control and a lot more information, which helped Ford squeeze a bit more power out of cars from that year forward. 1997 brought with it two new versions of the mod motor, only these ones were stroked up to much higher displacements, and these were not in the Mustang. With a 105.8mm stroke, Ford built a 5.4-liter V8 mod motor and a 6.8-liter V10 based mod motor starting that year. It was at this point when the mod motor expanded into the F-Series trucks, E-Series vans, and the Ford Expedition, and the V10 started going into the larger E-Series vans and would find its way into the larger F-Series trucks in 1999. That same year, the SVT Lightning got a supercharged 2-valve 5.4-liter V8 version of the mod motor with 360 horsepower and 440 foot-pounds of torque. Once power was now in the 300 plus horsepower range, it was evident that the mod motor was becoming the new generation of Ford performance V8s, the likes of which we hadn't seen power-wise for like 2 decades. When these 5.4-liter mod motor V8s went into trucks, Ford called them the Tritons, and when the 4-valve per cylinder versions went into Lincoln and Mercuries, they called them Intech engines. At this point, the iron block for the 4.6 cars were mostly being cast in the Romeo plant, and the iron block for trucks mostly at the Windsor plant. Windsor and Italy would share the aluminum block production until 1999. Windsor engines typically had a press-on cam gear and either 13 or 14 valve cover bolts, 8 crank bolts, and a floating style piston wrist pin. Engines made in the Romeo plant usually had a bolt-on cam gear, 11 bolts for the valve cover, 6 crank bolts, and a press-fit piston wrist pin. They were stamped W or R to let buyers know which factory they came from. As for the 4.6 liter motors, around this time, small automakers like De Tomaso, Marcos, Spectre, and Panoz all discovered them and started to use them in several of their models. The engine was starting to get around outside of Ford's circle, and in 1999, Ford developed and installed the new Performance Improved, or PI, heads and intake manifolds for the 2-valve 4.6s, which increased power and helped add on a bit of low-end torque. One interesting aspect of these new redesigned heads and manifolds was that with a little fiddling, they could be retrofitted back onto pre-existing pre-PI blocks. With the introduction of the PI heads, the horsepower on the 2-valve Mustang GTs went from 215 to 225 in terms of pre-PI cars, and then 260 horsepower after the PI heads were introduced. And torque went from 285 foot-pounds to about 300 foot-pounds. The Cobras rose in power from 305 horsepower to 320 in 1999, and then in 2003, with the introduction of the supercharged Terminator Cobra, we saw the Cobras make 390 horsepower. The Terminator Cobra is one of the most iconic modern Mustangs, but with that car, they ended up switching out the block from the aluminum block on the Terminator Cobra to an iron block to better withstand the power, while all the other SM95 Cobras used an aluminum block. In addition to the SVT Cobras, Ford revived the Mach 1 name in 2003 and 2004 and gave them an aluminum block 4-valve mod motor that made about 305 horsepower and 335 foot-pounds of torque. But wait, we're not even done yet. Then there was the Mustang SVT Cobra R that came out in 2000, which had a 4-valve 5.4 liter mod motor. These were naturally aspirated track monsters that had the big fixed wing on the back. They didn't make a lot of them, and they are super expensive collector cars today, but back in 2000, they were wicked capable for a Mustang and was pretty much the pinnacle of Mustang performance. The short-lived Lincoln Blackwood got a 4-valve mod motor in 2002, and so did the Mercury Marauder starting in 2003. They basically took the non-supercharged Cobra motor and shoved it into the Mercury Marauder, which was a rebadged, upscaled version of the Crown Vic. And then in 2005, we had another pivotal year for the Ford mod motor. It was this year that Ford introduced their all-new design, which was a 3-valve per-cylinder version of the 4.6. They had played around with a 3-valve setup for the 5.4 liter versions in the Explorer and the Mercury Mountaineer, and even some Australian market models in 2002. And Ford started offering it in the F-150s in 2004, but now they had expanded it to the Mustang. The single overhead cam motor went into Mustang GTs from 2005 all the way through 2010. It had a slightly higher compression than the 2-valve motors did, now at 9.8 to 1, and it made about 300 horsepower. Around the same time the 3-valve Mustang started to really take off, we saw the introduction and really the last hurrah of the mod motor V8s, with the 4-valve 5.4 liter engines that were put into the Ford GT and later expanded into the Trinity line of motors for the Shelby GT 500s in 5.4 liters and up to 5.8 liters. These engines, when supercharged, easily made over 500 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque. In fact, the first GT 500 that they reintroduced made that. By the end, they were making well over 600. And then in 2005, the Koenigsegg CCR won the record of world's fastest production car using a heavily modified version of a 4.6 liter mod motor that made 806 horsepower. That record was surpassed a few months later by the Bugatti Veyron, but a Ford motor did hold the spot of fastest production car engine for a bit. Now, on the larger volume performance front, with the 4.6 being out there now for a long time, the new 6.2-liter LS3 engines in the Camaro and the 6.4-liter Hemi V8s were arriving on the road in the late 2000s and early 2010s, and Ford realized they needed something new and a bit higher tech. At the same time, they wanted the new engine to fit into existing chassis that were using the 4.6-liter mod motor, as to save on cost and make the switchover easy. And that's how the new Coyote engine was born, a new 5-liter spiritual successor to the mod motor that had a ton of new features, like variable cam timing. Starting in 2010, the Coyote began replacing the mod motors pretty much everywhere they were still found. The E-Series vans and a few Lincolns held on to the mod motors for a few more years, but the Coyote was another great success for Ford, and it has, I think, faithfully carried on the torch and expanded the legacy of the 4.6. Because without the 4.6, we would never have the modern Coyote, which is one of the best engines on the market today. And that's pretty much where the story of the Ford mod motor ends. They're still extremely common engines because they made so many of them, especially in 2-valve form, so parts for those ones at least are relatively cheap, they are common to find, and there's plenty of stuff to play around with for them in the aftermarket. It's a bit harder to find parts for the 4-valve cars because they didn't make as many of them, but there are solutions out there in places that will still build those motors. Or if you want to swap a Coyote into a mod motor car, you can do so because there are plenty of swap kits out there to take those early SN95 and New Edge Mustangs and put the Coyote motor into them, even using the stock transmission that came with the 4.6. Let me know in the comments down below though if you ever had any mod motor powered Fords. Again, I have a Mach 1 myself and I have a Coyote powered Mustang, so I am very familiar with these engines and I love both of them. But I'd be really curious to hear in the comments down below what your experience has been with the mod motor, because mine has been nothing short of fantastic. But again, thank you all for watching this video. If you made it to the end, please make sure to give it a like, share, and subscribe to the channel because we're putting out new videos like this nearly every single week. Otherwise though, I will see you all in the next one, enthusiasts.